first and only candidate to have stood for the Bermuda Democratic Alliance and won his seat under the banner of the One Bermuda Alliance. He has been a cabinet minister and shadow minister, a friend of mine, and I thank Sylvan for his service and for standing with me through this political journey. Jean Atherton has served Spanish Point very well during her time in politics and has been an opposition leader as well, minister and shadow minister. I also would like to thank her for her service. I am enthused with the caliber of people stepping forward as candidates who want to take up the mantle from some of my senior colleagues. It is truly a new dawn for Bermuda and for the OBA. Soon, the One Bermuda Alliance will be announcing some exciting policies, but I feel it is important to introduce the Bermudians who will be responsible for implementing those plans. In that regard, I am looking forward to rolling out some new faces, those who have accepted our invitation to run in this election. Bermuda, when the One Bermuda Alliance became government in 2012, we were faced with a crisis. We inherited out of control government spending and an economy that was in terrible shape. In 4 short years, we turned it around. We got $1 billion in investment in Bermuda. Yes, $1 billion. New hotels provided hundreds of jobs for Bermudians. The America's Cup, one of the world's most iconic sporting events, injected $320 million into the economy. It provided jobs and new businesses for hundreds of Bermudians in a range of different areas. The airport has employed hundreds of Bermudians throughout its construction. It will continue to provide jobs for Bermudians when it opens. We reduced payroll tax for the less well-off and increased payroll tax for the rich. We got on top of government spending. I must say to you, Bermuda, we are the right choice. We are a few weeks away now from making a crucial decision about which team is best suited to steer this country away from economic disaster. The Premier has promised to re-engineer the economy. He has talked of taking an unorthodox approach. These are just sound bites, and to this date, with no substance. Before COVID, we asked where the economic plan was, and today we are still asking what the plan is to stimulate the economy, to provide jobs for Bermudians, and hope for the future. I must say, Bermuda, in this regard, we are the right choice. Over the last 3 years, we have seen promises made and promises broken. The Premier promised investment in training and Bermudian-based blockchain companies worth $25 million. He promised fintech would create 120 jobs in more than 2 years. That has not happened. The Premier promised to lower the cost of living and introduce a living wage, which was agreed, by the way, by a bipartisan Joint Select Committee involving PLP members and OBA members. But Premier Burt has been unable or unwilling to deliver. Bermuda, we will do better. There were also promises to balance the budget and to achieve a budget surplus. Those never transpired. And in fact, Premier Burt's government has borrowed $1 billion in the last 12 months. That's an extra $15,500 for every man, woman, and child. Bermuda, we will do better. The Premier claims to have reduced taxes for working Bermudians to their lowest ever levels. But what Premier Burt gave on one hand, he took from the other. There is nothing brilliant about that, other than a cheap magician's trick. All Bermudians have felt the effects of the sugar tax, the new dividend tax for small Bermudian businesses, the increased land tax, and increased foreign currency purchase tax that put the price of imported goods up for all of us. All of us have been detrimentally affected by this administration's failed economic policies. He has forgotten the increase in government fees which affect Bermudians and Bermudian businesses. Can you honestly say that you are better off because of Premier Bert's policies over the last 3 years? Premier Bert wants you to vote for him based on the country's handling of COVID, for which he followed World Health Organization guidelines. But are you willing to give the Bert administration a further 5-year mandate after 3 years of economic failure? Bermuda, we must do better. Bermuda, we are the right choice. I now hand over Robin and Marcus. Oh, this one okay?
Yes, come. I'm speaking next.
We're gonna have, no?
Can I grab you some? No water, just grab your water. Oh boy.
Sorry if I got it. I don't pull that thing out.
Good morning, Bermuda. Today marks the culmination of a political journey that began as a teenager, raised in Somerset, whose only exposure to politics was through the Progressive Labour Party. I did not know anyone who sided with the other party in my neighborhood, and like a fanatic follower of English football, go Manchester United, we never changed our allegiance, which included our politics. So it was quite natural for me to jump on that bandwagon and espouse the ideas of all the PLP personalities that I had looked up to through to my adult years. But I have taught my children to be critical thinkers, ask questions, and don't settle for the status quo. I followed my own advice, and after some serious soul searching, I realized I could no longer be a standard bearer for a party who, by its political posturing, demonstrated that it put Black Bermudian working class people above everyone else. I believe that was necessary for a racially divided 1960 Bermuda, where persons within my community had been disenfranchised from the political and economic process. But with the strides that have been made, a predominantly Black political party that has been in power for almost 20 years, Black business ownership that will be the envy of our brothers and sisters in the U.S., and the percentage of highly educated Black Bermudians that reside on our island, the victim mentality that the establishment was keeping us back, and the reference that the sins of slavery defined us was too much for me to bear. I wanted to be a part of an alliance of community-minded, fiscally responsible, and forward-thinking people who have sincere concerns for the hardships of its residents and believed in advocating for the vulnerable and the disadvantaged. A party that's inclusive, embracing Bermuda's diversity of people, provides opportunity for everyone to succeed. A party that puts all Bermudians first, not just a certain sector of the community based on ethnicity, class, or economic status. So that come to Jesus moment led me to the One Bermuda Alliance. The list of values that I have mentioned is what this party aspires to be. This party has not always reflected the ideals of its mandate outlined in its name and enshrined in its constitution, which is to strive to create an environment both in perception and reality, a one Bermuda. That is reflected in our theme for this election, We Will Do Better, which demonstrates humility in admitting past shortcomings and a commitment to improve on our performance as parliamentarians, both individually and as a party. This brings me to the fine people of Pembroke West, who I am soliciting for support to be the representative of constituency 19. On the doorstep, you have told me about the poor conditions of Spanish Point Road and the need for some major cleanup of old discarded boats and the like just off of the Spanish Point Boat Club. You have impressed upon me the need for a future economic plan for a post-COVID-19 Bermuda, a public education system that provides equal quality access to every boy and girl, and the removal of divisive political rhetoric that is commonplace in this arena. As the OBA's proposed candidate, I commit to addressing these concerns of yours, and by God's help, I know I will make a difference in Pembroke West and Bermuda as a whole. Thank you.
Good morning, Bermuda, One Bermuda Alliance colleagues and members of the media. I'm Robin Tucker, and I'm excited to be the OBA candidate for Hamilton South, constituency number 7. Some may be wondering, who is Robin Tucker? I have no political history, and prior to joining the OBA and agreeing to represent the OBA in the upcoming general election, I had no political affiliation. I'm just like many of you, a concerned citizen affected by the decisions of whichever government is leading the country. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother who is worried about the mounting debt that our children, our grandchildren, and maybe even our great-grandchildren will have to repay. I'm worried about our children receiving quality education and whether they will be adequately prepared to compete for jobs locally and overseas. I'm worried that so many Bermudians, even pre-COVID, are out of work and unable to provide the basic necessities for their families. While I don't live in constituency number 7, I have worked there for almost 5 years. Someone asked me, what do you know about the area? While I have not met with the constituents, I know that we share some common concerns. We all want a thriving economy and fair paying jobs. We all want to live in healthy and safe communities. People with children want them to be educated and prepared for their futures. How can we do this? We must support our educators and ensure that teachers have the skills, professional development opportunities, and resources needed to deliver quality education to each child. We must work to bring about more collaboration between parents and teachers, as the health of that relationship can significantly impact a student's success. I also care deeply about protecting our children. Educating them is important, but if they're hungry and neglected, we can have the best education system in the world. But if the children are not safe and properly taken care of, we have no hope of a healthy society. I end my time today with a promise to constituency number 7, to turn my words into action. My pledge to the constituents is that I will not politicize issues. I will remember that as a public servant, I work for you. You do not work for me. I promise to show my commitment to representing constituency number 7, to representing their interests by carrying out my work as a public servant with integrity, thoughtfulness, and with professionalism. Lastly, I want to thank Craig and the OBA Selection Committee for giving me this opportunity to be a part of the new and revitalized OBA team. Thank you.
This is fun, hey? Okay, so we open it up to questions. Massive silence. Yes, Fiona.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time this morning. Fiona McWhirter from Royal Gazette. Mr. Cannonier, with regards to the Pembroke West seat, I think you said that was Ms. Atherton's seat.
Yes, Gina.
She recently said that she was quite happy and she felt like she still had a lot more to give. Can you maybe give us some indication about why she's not going to be the candidate this general election?
We felt that moving forward, quite frankly, we had opportunity for someone like Marcus, who is representing where the One Bermuda Alliance wants to go with the future. And Jean has been fantastic while we have had her in the room. And when we sat down with her about the future of politics and where she wanted to go, and we're the One Bermuda Alliance, and I was wanting to turn this and take this, we both agreed that now was the time to make those adjustments. And so we made those adjustments.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Mhm.
Hi,
Mhm.
Mr. Kennedy.
Yes, Jasmine.
Good morning. Given that you have two newcomers with limited experience in the
Mhm.
political area, how do you hope that they will be brought up to speed, if you are successful?
The same as in 1998 when a whole bunch of new people were brought into the PLP, completely green. We'll bring them up to par. They're already out there in the community. The beauty of Bermuda is that we talk politics every single day. So although they may not be formally or have been formally involved in politics in the past, they've been a part of it all their lives. And so it's not very difficult to bring them up to par. Our goal going forward is to ensure that we present Bermuda with the policies that are going to affect our families, that are going to affect our businesses, and the vulnerable. That is our concern. We have far too many people out there that are vulnerable right now, and we need to be taking care of them.
Mr. Cannoneer, with the PLP's already laid out several candidates, plus they have some that are already
Yes.
filled, and this is your first rollout of candidates.
Yes.
What can we expect over the next week or so?
What you see right here, this is what you can expect. You can expect experience with newcomers coming into the room to put Bermuda first, to find a way forward that will do better for Bermuda. But you can expect this.
Will there be more people who are currently sitting as MPs stepping down as well?
As we roll out, you'll definitely see.
You know. Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes,
Sarah
Yella.
Wilson, Bermuda Real. Mr. Cannoneer,
Yes.
I guess my first question would be, are you confident you can slate a full field of candidates?
Yeah, I'm very confident. We have been working on this for some time, Ciola. I think because the election was somewhat of a snap election, people felt that we were caught off guard. No, we had been talking about this at least a year ahead of time, that there was a potential that we could have a snap election. After COVID, it became very clear to us that the Premier was probably considering a snap election. And so we were in the back room looking at some of the policies that we wanted to put forward, and we're going to roll those policies out. But we by no means were caught off guard. We simply have been trying to rebuild after taking a devastating loss in 2017. There had to be a coming to Jesus moment for the OBA. We needed to get into the room and hash out some of the issues that we felt we failed in and where we did well. And that conversation has been had. And so what you're seeing now, as we roll out and you see more of the candidates roll out, that is a culmination of where we see Bermuda going forward for the One Bermuda Alliance.
I'm curious as to how you're viewing seat 36, Sam's, in a seat that was previously held by a long-serving MP, but not too long ago in 2012, the
Yeah.
OBA almost won it by
Almost.
less than 10 votes. If you run someone strong there, what do you think your chances are, and who are you looking at?
Well, we won't say who that is quite yet. We will be rolling that person out. But what I can say is that we have looked at the historical voting there. It was, I guess, a bit disappointing that we were lost by such a small margin, having spent myself quite a bit of time up there and the issues that were constituency 36 was having. I believe that there's another opportunity. I also recognize that our Premier said that he was concerned about by-elections and people retiring, but yet here we now look after the fact. He complained, but yet he's retiring some of his own members, which I felt was duplicitous in and of itself. We still see the bickering that was going on up in number 36 as to who gets that seat, who's going to be vying for that seat. And, listen, I'm not in their room, but I do recognize that 36 does present an opportunity for us to make some inroads. So, we've still got some time. We are talking about how do we take on a seat like 36. And I'll be frank with you, team, media. Listen, we're looking at crawling back the seats that we lost in 2017. This is about going into the future and winning this election. And we've got to do some serious work. It's going to be difficult, Ciola. I mean, with all of the confusion over COVID, I'm concerned right now about where we are. People are not going to be able to vote if they have COVID. You've got people who are trying to travel home to vote, and if they find themselves quarantined, they can't vote. You know, this is, quite frankly, astounding. And then the premier has the nerve to come out and say for mixed status now, oh, we're going to resolve this mixed status thing after he calls an election, preventing them from being able to vote. If that's not plain in your eyes what's going on here, then maybe we need to sit back down and reassess what it is that we are looking for. But there are several opportunities for us. We will be very strategic, but we will be upfront with you about where we are as we roll out these candidates. And you will see exactly why we are rolling out the candidates we are in these specific areas. You will see it clearly.
You said that you've had to talk about where the OBA went wrong in 2017. What do you say to the voter who says Craig Cannonier has baggage?
Yes.
Craig Cannonier was part of a party that led us down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Why should we trust you now? What do you say to those voters?
We're all human, and we all make mistakes. Some of them legitimate, some of them not. But the integrity of the process has always been there. The integrity of the people who are involved in the OBA is there. And so I will never give up hope on anyone, Siliola, no one, because I recognize my job is to see the silver lining in everyone, even as we make missteps along the way. But the genuineness and the heart has to be about not me, Craig Cannonier, which is why I am still here. If it was about me, I could have easily just walked away. It is not about me. It is about finding a way forward for the people who need that hope and who need an opportunity. We have not seen that from PLP. 20 years we have a PLP government. And what can we say as some of us as black people? We're no further ahead. We're still bickering and fighting over the same issues. Where are we with the economy? We have a track record with the economy. Let's fix this thing. The best social program is a job.
This question is on behalf of my colleague. I don't suppose you will say whose bright idea this little scenario with Dan Smith and Leah Scott, whose bright idea was that, but you're talking about a status Bermudian who's an American who still pays taxes. Where does she get off at?
And what reference are you saying? I'm not sure.
With regards to the premier's loyalty, because he has a Jamaican mother, not born in Jamaica. She was born in America, and not too long ago lobbied in the House that we need to get away from this real Bermudian versus Bermudian status. Bermudians. Whose bright idea was that? And what are you saying now?
Well, I think we've already said it, Ciola. If you look at the full context, this was about pointing out the fact that if we have a premier who wants to involve Bermudians and get Bermudians back to work, the direction of that conversation was, if you have had this business for so many years and there's not one Bermudian working in this business, well, where's his training program? And he talks about international business and other businesses should be training Bermudians, that they should be looking at how they get Bermudians into this beauty type industry. We would have hoped to have seen that he would probably have Bermudians in his job. Listen, I in my company, we have 100% Bermudian. And if we were not training and looking to ensure that Bermudians had jobs, how can the premier stand and say, oh, well, all these other businesses need to train Bermudians, but yet he hasn't been able to get any Bermudians within his own business? That was what I got out of the conversation. And I recognize that some people may have felt that, that was a targeting issue. Listen, we're all imports, okay? We all came from somewhere else. There's no indigenous Bermudian. And so we must be opening up the borders to all. The reason Bermuda thrived is because we have all of this mixed. Every one of you has got European, white, all kinds of stuff in you. I'm looking at Ciola's here. I know that. So, if we're going to preach something, then we also should be implementing it in our own business. And that was the point.
My final question, you said you admit to making mistakes. What do you refer to as your mistakes? Does it include the airport deal that was voted on without seeing clauses? Does it include Morgan's Point? And what do you say, with all the dollars attached to that, why anybody should trust your party?
Sure. It was never a trust issue, the airport, nor was it a trust issue for Morgan's Point. It was an issue of jobs. building the economy back. That's what it was about. We entered into a situation in 2012, of December 2012, where Bermudians were hurting for jobs. This was an opportunity to build an airport not at the expense of the taxpayer. If you take a look at what was being presented before by the PLP government before 2012, you had a almost $500 million project that the taxpayer was going to have to take on. We found an opportunity to be able to do this without the taxpayer having to foot the bill. And I'll put it this way. If someone comes to you and says, listen, I can build a house for you. I know you want a house. I can build a house for you at no cost to you, because I'll build enough apartments so that that revenue for paying for that house comes from the apartments. Common sense would say you take it on. Now, with any project that we do, whether it's taxpayers' money or someone else's money, there's always going to be contracts. And there's always going to be, okay, well, if we do this here, how can we do it for the benefit of Bermudians? We needed to create opportunities for Bermudians. And the other main issue was the airport was deplorable. If we are talking about taking care of Bermudians, how are we going to allow Bermudians to be working in an establishment, Ciola? If every time it rains, you're sitting at your desk, you got water all over your desk. You know, a hurricane comes, it's flooded. And so we saw the opportunity to create jobs, and in addition to creating jobs, present and give our Bermudians who are working there an opportunity to be in better conditions.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Being streamed,
Yes.
our viewers want to know, how does the OBA plan to get Bermudians back to work? And I'm finished.
Sure. We'll do it as we did it before. We will stimulate the economy. It's one of these things here. We need Bermudians back to work. We have no natural resource of our own other than intellectual capital. And how do we get our people back to work? The Premier has just admitted that now we have to get more people into the island. You know how he admitted it? With the 1-year certificate for people to come here and work. All along they've been saying they want Bermudians to work, and we've been saying you need to get more people here. They've been pushing back. But yet, hypocritically, now they're bringing people here to work for the next year. And let me add this here, Ciola, and to the rest of you. That policy was not a PLP policy. The OBA put that policy in place. The only way we get our vulnerable back to work and offer financial assistance is to get that US dollar back into Bermuda, and that is investment. And people will not invest in this island if we continue with the race baiting and the racial wars that are going on. And the first thing a business says, what's the political climate like? That's what they ask. If I'm going to invest in Bermuda, okay, first question, what's the political climate like? And when they look on the media and they see, okay, well, I agree that, we need to take care of the vulnerable, and most of those vulnerable are black. These investors want to help. They want to help. But they're not going to put up with the rhetoric. They will help. I'm telling you firsthand, I've heard it from them. They will help. We showed it in 2012. They came in and brought their money, and we can do it again. We just need to get the confidence of the rest of the world, knowing that this is the place that has the brightest and the best. And I'm going to say this here. I've listened to many people around the world on Bermuda, and they will admit, you guys have got intellectual capital like nobody else's business, Ciola. And they want to take on you all. But your industry is under attack, and you've seen the cutbacks because we haven't gotten the investment back into the country. And it is about building that trust with the rest of the world to get it here. Sorry for going on about that, but.
Thank you.
Can I ask Ms. Tucker?
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning, thank you very much. I think you mentioned that perhaps you hadn't met or weren't entirely familiar with the constituents of C7. Can they expect to see more of you over the coming weeks? And if so, what are you going to be speaking to them and talking to them about?
Oh, absolutely. They can expect to see me. Actually, I'm planning on being out there from tonight. So the types of things that we'll be talking about is, first and foremost, I want to speak to them and listen to whatever their concerns are. It's going to be very important for me to be able to make any kind of impactful change on behalf of the One Bermuda Alliance, to be able to understand exactly what their needs are. So rather than just putting words on a page, but I need to be able to understand them in the heart of what it is that concerns them. So that's primarily what we'll be talking about, what their needs are, and how I can assist in helping them achieve whatever their concerns are.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Hi, Ms. Tucker. As a newcomer, what can you share about yourself? What was your background, and what skills do you hope to bring to the political forefront?
Okay, my background is primarily in human resources. I've been in human resource departments about 17 years, and I also have a degree in psychology. So my background and my degree together helps me to be able to actually deal with people and understand people a whole lot better. So I believe that having those two things come together, because at the end of the day, this is all about people, right? Politics is all about people and about building relationships and understanding each other and meeting needs. So with those things, my HR background and my degree in psychology and an understanding and a passion and a heart for people, that's what I intend to bring.
Also, your opponent, Anthony Richardson, he's been steadily canvassing through the pandemic, and he stated that he's been working quite closely with those in the community. Why should people decide to have a listen to what you can offer?
Because I'll bring them another perspective. So obviously they've built relationships with him. They will have spoken to him and gotten his perspective. But for people to be able to vote with from any kind of informed direction, then they've got to be able to have another perspective. And that's what I can bring to the table. And I bring the other perspective. I would hope that they would give me the opportunity to present my perspective, and then they can weigh the two things out and make an informed choice when they go to the polling station.
Constituency 7 is one of the marginals in Bermuda. What does it say that you're going to have to make sure that you not only hold on to the people who voted for Mr. Richards last time, but try to gain more people to vote for the OBA?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding the question.
Well, last time Constituency 7 was one of the marginals, and this time around, in order to hold on to those votes that Mr. Richards had, and possibly gain even more to make it a safer seat for the OBA, what are you going to have to do?
I'm going to have to go out there and meet the people. I'm going to have to meet them and listen to them and understand what their needs and their what their needs and concerns are. That is the way that I can sell myself. I can sell my genuineness, and I can sell my ability to be able to actually hear them and not just be that politician that shows up on their doorstep and takes information and walks away, and that's the end of it. I'm a person that is, as I mentioned in my speech, someone that's committed to actually turning words into action. So once I understand what the concerns are, then I can then come back and speak to the party, get what I need to get in order to help things to get done. I'm not here to waste time. I'm certainly not here to be a placeholder. I am here to make sure that I meet the needs of the people I'm representing and do what needs to be done.
You say you work in the constituency. What have your coworkers talked to you about that you think needs to be addressed right away?
Well, I mean, there are things, I have to say that I haven't had any in-depth conversations with my coworkers, but I can say to you that there are things that need to be addressed, just the general things like lighting in the areas, making sure that the trash is picked up when it should be. So those types of things. And then certainly making sure that, I mean, when you consider there's a big thing as far as what would be concerning to the constituents is the whole land losses conversation. So even with that, it is my position on that is certainly There is a commission of inquiry that's been enacted, and so certainly we wait until all of the information and the findings have been presented, and then we make sure that those that have, have experienced loss, if there's anything that comes of that there is healing that takes place, and that, the right thing is done for the right reasons.
We're done.
Thank you.
No. Anyone else?
No, I'm
No?
good. I need to see you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone.
Picture?